She's always been the tough guy in the family, my big sister. So, I don't, you know, she doesn't care what I say, she's not listening anyway.
So, like, all this amazing and so on, but what's the thing that gets you through the bad days?
I don't know really, you just, the only thing is the worst day in advertising is better than the best day in the factory. That's about all there is to it really. But you know, sometimes it isn't nice. I've been fired and that's not nice. Lots of not very nice things happen to you. But hey, you know, they're first world problems. You know, we look at it. We live in, you know, fantastic city. We've got, you know, great health care. Well, we're all looked after. We've got running water, and you know. Now you look at some films about the third world, where 3/4 of the world lives, and you think, you know, our worst day is better than their best day. You know. And what I would suggest you do, you have side projects going on, side advertising projects that you do that are nothing to do with the agency you work at. So you can be doing good advertising even on the days you're having to do bad advertising. If you have some of your own freelance going on, or just your own ads going on, or your own creativity going on, so you can feel good about stuff, and you haven't got planners and account men and clients to get in the way, because it's your own projects, then at least you can feel good about that, you know? If you're really creative, you will be creative everywhere, not just sit in an office and don't do anything unless anybody gives you the perfect brief. You will do, there's other stuff that annoys you or upsets you or excites you. Do that. Well, we can't do that because there's no money to do ads. Well, print it on a Xerox machine and stick it on a wall. Make ads and run them online. Put them on YouTube. Blimey, if you're at all creative, there's a million different ways to do this stuff. If you're not creative, then of course there isn't. You have to sit in the office and wait for someone to give you a brief. And if no one gives you a brief, you can't do anything.
What do you think the main traits or habits that the best creatives that you have worked with have in common?
Troublemakers. The best ones have wanted to not be part of the crowd. Whatever everybody else is doing, they don't want to do that. John Webster, when we did this ad for 1 year for Gertrude, and I'd written it up, and John and I was thinking, how do I shoot it? I'll shoot it in black and white. And my wife said, she said, how are you going to shoot it? And I said, black and white, I think. She said, why? And I said, yeah, you're right, there's no real reason. Okay, we'll shoot it in colour. Then I showed the script to John Webster. And John said, it's great, we'll shoot it in black and white. And I said, why? What's the reason? And John said, no one else is doing it. Fuck it, I never thought of that. You know? It's like people who want to be naughty boys, who want to stand out, who want to get in trouble. Because trouble is free media. Trouble is controversy, and controversy means people are talking about you. And that's what we're in the business of. Getting talked about, getting into the language. So being a troublemaker, being controversial, is what everybody who's any good has had in common.
How about that? Have you ever run a campaign without telling the client?
Did I ever run a campaign without telling the client? You can't really, because say you're spending their money, and you can't spend it unless
even if it's on digital or on the internet.
Even
if it's internet, or even if it's YouTube video or something was cheaper.
I've run loads of campaigns where I haven't had a client. And campaigns where the client, like on Third World Debt, where we've done it and we say to a charity, we made this film, we made it for free, written it for free, we got the cinemas to run it for free, do you want to put your name on the end of it? And they will say, oh, well, we'd like to, Oxfam will say, well, we'd like to change it about this. And I say, no, sorry, if you don't want it, we'll give it to someone else. And we go to another charity. Say to children, say to them, we made this film, do you want to put your name on the end of it? And with Third World, anti-Third World advertising, we made about 14 or 15 commercials, about half a dozen posters, half a dozen press ads. Certainly a couple of million quid worth of free media, free production, and probably much more than that in free media. And we haven't had a client. So you don't need a client, you don't need to wait for clients, you can make it happen. If you're at all creative, you create. And what creative means is bringing into being something which didn't previously exist. So if you're creative, you bring into being things that don't previously exist. That's what you do. Otherwise, you're not creative, you're a stylist. Edward de Bono said there are a lot of people calling themselves creative who are actually mere stylists. Yeah, we've got a lot of that.
So, what is the biggest risk that you ever take?
The biggest risk?
Yeah, that you ever take.
Jesus, I don't know. See, starting my first agency was a risk, but I never meant to start an agency. I wanted to be a creative director at a big American agency, but I wasn't famous enough, so I needed to get famous in a hurry. So I thought, well, if I open an ad agency, we got enough money to last for 6 months. If we can make a big enough noise over 6 months, campaign will keep putting us in it, and that will make me famous in a hurry. Then I can go and get a job at a big American agency as a creative director. And accidentally, by doing that, we became famous, and and the agency became big and famous, and I didn't have to do it. But those are those are things I can think of. It wasn't a risk. It backfired, and we were successful by accident. It wasn't what I meant to be. Yeah.
What's your biggest failure?
My biggest
Failure?
failure.
Failure.
Jesus. I don't know.
What did you learn from it?
Well, I don't know that I've learned much, but except Steve Henry, we were advertising these bamboo steamers, and we thought, like most young people think, that what you have to do is advertising that people like, advertising that people laugh at and people love. So Steve wrote this ad with a Chinese guy in called Burt Kwok. Do you know Burt Kwok? He's the only Chinese, pretty much the only Chinese actor there was in England at that time. And this was a thing called a bamboo steamer. And this company had bought thousands and thousands of these bamboo steamers. And we thought, well, a really funny ad. We'll do it like a TV chef. And there was Fanny and Johnny at the time. Fanny and Johnny Cranach with his TV couple, old English TV couple. We thought, we'll get Fanny and Johnny, but because it's a Chinese steamer, we'll make them Chinese. And Fanny does most of the talking. Well, there aren't any Chinese women that can talk. We'll have to get Burt Kwok. He's the only Chinese person that can talk. He can be Fanny. And he had a part in the film and he had a moustache and he wouldn't shave it off. So we said, oh, well, that's funny. You can be Fanny with a moustache. And the other one, Johnny, he couldn't talk much, but we made him the other. And the whole campaign, and it was really, really funny, this campaign. And it sold about 4 steamers, and it was a failure, and the company went out of business, and we won a D&AD Gold Award. Now, what do you learn out of that?
Do you think there's a trade-off between being talked about and brand esteem? Like you've used the money supermarket as an example. I really don't like it, and I would probably out of principle not use that product because I think it's so corny. Maybe there's other people that feel the same way. Like it's something that's talked about, but they don't like it, and it wouldn't draw them towards the brand.
Yeah, but see, you're assuming that you have to like something to use it. That's where most people in advertising go wrong. I was talking to a guy who founded Direct Line, the little red telephone, Sheila's Wheels, eSure, and Go Compare. All of those, one after the other. And at the time, eSure had Michael Winner doing the ads. And I said to him, aren't you embarrassed that Michael Winner's just been voted the most irritating advertising? And he said, yeah, now ask me what he's done for my brand. He said, before Michael Winner came along, my brand was like that. Michael Winner came along and it gone like that. He said, I was embarrassed about Michael Winner, so everybody disliked it, so I took him off and did these other ads with Mr. Mouse. little character, and the brand went like that. He said, I had to bring Michael Winner back. People being irritated by your brand is nothing to do with it working. We have to decide what business we're in. Are we in the business of doing little films that we like, or are we in the business of doing ads that work? Look at what's the most important thing. That is in insurance aggregation business. Those people, Go Compare, Money Supermarket, all the rest are in Meerkats, all in insurance aggregation business. That means they're a distressed purchase. You guys need to know the difference between distressed purchases, consumer durables, FMCGs, all this sort of stuff. Never mind all the crap you're learning. You need to learn serious stuff about how markets and brains work. So he goes into if you're in what you're selling in insurance aggregators is companies where they will compare all the insurance prices for you, right? So what happens when you always don't, never mind whether you like it or not, don't knee jerk into that. Look at how people buy insurance. How do you buy insurance? It's a distressed purchase. You don't sit and say, I don't really like Go Compare. I don't think that's my kind of brand, so I'm not going to include Go Compare in these aggregations. What's more the kind of advertising that I like? I'm only going to include them in my aggregations. You don't. What comes through is your car insurance is due, and you go, oh, sod it, I've got to get the bloody car insurance again. What is the one factor in choosing car insurance?
Price.
Anyone?
Price.
Like
Price.
Anyone think there's any other factor? There's only one fucking factor in choosing car insurance, price. It's a distressed purchase. You don't want it, and if you didn't have to have it, you wouldn't have it. But once a year, the law says you have to have it. So you'll buy the cheapest one, right? How do you know it's the cheapest one? Are you going to go online and look at every bleeding one you can buy? No, the aggregators. Pick an aggregator and they'll compare it for you, yeah? Which aggregator can you think of? This is such a fag to do this whole thing. What's top of mind? Meerkats, Go Compare? Yeah, all right, where are they? GoCompare.com. And it's done. And you're out of it. That's all it is, top of mind. It doesn't matter if you like it. You don't want to be part of it. This is a distressed purchase. That you need to kind of look at understanding before you get into should I like it or not, what's the job it's got to do? Form follows function. Start with the function. Yeah? I was having this argument with some guys at Abbott Mead years ago. Have you got any more questions before I tell you this stuff?
You've got, yeah, what's
Go on, yeah.
if you were a young, out of work creative now, which agency would you most like to work at?
Well, I think everybody would say Droga 5, wouldn't they? Now, that's the knee-jerk answer. The true answer, anywhere they've got a job. And then after that, a better place that's got a job. But what I do, my son, to get a job, he put a website together, did 600 emails, got 3 placements, one of which he turned into a job. So that's 1 out of 600. You carpet bomb every fucking areas in order to get a job. Unless you're a genius and you can do 1 perfect email resulting in 1 perfect job. If you're not, you carpet bomb it. You live in the world of digital. You live in the world of emails and websites. Why not use it? It's all free. You don't have to go through the whole palaver I went through of doing 50 Xeroxes and sending them through the mail. You can do it like that. 1 website, 1 form letter, just keep changing the name on the top. Go to NABS, they'll give you the name of every creative director and their contact details. You can carpet bomb them. If they don't answer you, send it again. If they don't answer you, send it again. If they don't answer you, send it again. Send it every day until they do. They tell you to fuck off. So what? You're no worse off. You know, this is like, you're supposed to be a nuisance. Otherwise, be polite and be invisible and don't have a job. You know? You can have what you want. The most important sentence I heard years ago that was great was you can either have what you want or you can have your reasons for not having it.
Do you think...
That's a really good sentence, just so you've got to make sure you got that right. You can either have what you want or you can have your reasons for not having it. If you want it, you've got to give up your reasons. Reasons are what will stop you having what you want. You can either have what you want, or you can have your reasons for not having it. Sorry, go on, what were you going to say?
Do you think that your best work's already been done, or do you think that it's still yet to come?
Well, that's like saying, you know, after Michelangelo and Da Vinci was all the best painting done and there's no more to come.
Do you think he believed that he'd done his best work then?
Huh?
Do you believe that you've done your best work, or do you think
Do I believe?
that you've done your best work?
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
No, so I don't know. Don't worry about me. You worry about you. You better be looking at what I've done, thinking, "Fuck yeah, I can do better than that." And what he's missed, what he hasn't done. You know, because you look at Duchamp or Picasso. They used the camera, which Michelangelo didn't have. And then you look at Warhol. He used the film camera, which those guys didn't have. You know, but don't just sit there and expect the sodding technology to do the work for you, which is all anybody expects. It must be great, it's new technology. Bollocks. That's like saying everybody who took a photograph after Picasso is better than Picasso. You've got to get creative with it. Then you've got an advantage. But the advantage comes with you being creative and having a new tool. The tool itself isn't going to jump up and do it for you.
Do you think that we should find a mentor and just stick with it, try to be...
Find a mentor?
Yeah, mentor. Like you with John Webster or...
John wasn't my only mentor.
Sorry.
No, but I mean, Joe, I'll stick with John as long as John's better than me. Immediately I've learned everything I can and I'm growing bigger, I've got to find someone else.
So I guess that we need to find someone better than us and stick with them.
For me, I've always found about half a dozen or a dozen people that are better than me that I can learn a little bit from each of those guys. Bill Bernbach, Helmut Crone, John Webster, Charlie Sarchi, Paul Arden. You just think of David Abbott. They can each teach me something. David Abbott wasn't very good at TV, but he was brilliant at posters and press. John Webster was useless at posters and press, but great at TV. Everybody can teach you a different thing, I think. And you learn different things from different people. You know? And like I said, the more different influences you've got, and the way you put them together differently, will be what makes you different. I wouldn't have but one mentor. Have as many as you can get. But maybe only one thing from each. So from Alex Ferguson, I learned something different than I learned from Bill Shankly. Then I learned from Brian Clough. You know? From Heinz Guderian, I learned something different than I learned from Sherman. Everybody, you look at it and you take the best part from everything, or what you think is the best part, and put them together, and that's what will make you different, I think. I don't want to learn everything from one person, because then I learn their flaws as well. If I learn a bit from him and a bit from him, I must be better than either, because I've got the best bits from both. You know?
It's about spotting the right person for the right skill.
Well, you decide that for yourself, whatever that is. Yeah, Branson, you can learn amazing things from Branson, but you wouldn't want to do everything Branson does. Steve Jobs, you can learn amazing things from Steve Jobs, but you wouldn't want to do everything Steve Jobs does. You know? Are there any more questions on the laptop? Or?
Yeah, I've got a few on...
I should answer theirs if they're sending them in.
Huh?
I should
Yeah.
have-
Do you ever want to post an awful blog post just to see if it will get retweeted as gospel?
Me?
Yeah.
Why? I can never understand that. People want to be retweeted. Why, man? We're in a business where if you get an ad in the Sun, there's 4 million copies on the street. 3 people read every paper. That's 12 million people. Why would you want to fuck about getting retweeted? Oh, what's that, 1,000 people or something? 12 million people. You get an ad on the box, there's 10 million people watching that ad if it's the right. If it gets picked up, you get the ad on the box, picked up by the front page of the Sun, goes into the TV, goes onto the radio. Blimey, that's vast. That's a huge game. Fuck about being retweeted.
I don't quite understand the question, but you have to hire a new creative team with no portfolio. Where would you look and what would you look for?
Well, I wouldn't hire a creative.
Okay, cool.
And what if they are doing something to catch your attention?
Well, then they got a portfolio. Portfolio doesn't have to look like a portfolio, but you've got to be doing something. But I've got to see evidence. Otherwise, what am I hiring? See, I'm not hiring people. I'm hiring work. I don't really care what the people are like. You're not what runs in the paper. You're not what pays my mortgage. That pays my mortgage. Or what runs on the TV pays my mortgage. So I'm hiring that and that. I don't care if I never see you. I used to tell my creatives that we have an agreement always, which is I want a lot of work, I want it high quality, and I want it on time. That's what I want. Now, the other side of that is I don't care if I never see you. But if the work isn't high quality, if there isn't a lot of it and it isn't on time, we're going to have a problem. But I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you pay someone else to do it. As long as I've got a lot of work, high quality, and on time. And then really, I don't care, you know, whether you're male, female, Hindu, Muslim, it's nothing to do with me. I don't earn my money that way. I earn my money by the work, so that's all we're judging.
What do you do if you get a creative block, and what is your favourite word?
Creative block, that is really difficult. You try all different things. You try, well, when I was younger, you try going to the pub, you try getting drunk, you try getting stoned, you try going to the cinema, you try riding around on the circle line, you try doing a different brief, you try working with different people on it. You just try anything and everything. That's all there is to it. Anything else?
Do you still write your blogs out longhand?
No, I never did. Never ever. The difference between, at BMP, we used to have copywriters who were from art school and copywriters who were from university. And you could always tell the difference walking past their offices. Do you know how you could tell the difference? No. The university writers all wrote it out longhand with a pencil. The art school writers all used a typewriter. Nowadays it'd be a laptop, but it's a type. Do you know why? Think about it.
Only have to do it once.
No. Think about it. Why did art school use a typewriter and university use a pencil?
Because you can rub out pencil.
Because they think that's what's right.
Is it because it's not what they used when they were...
What's the difference between art school and university?
You have to pay.
Just simple.
Rules are different.
What do you do at art school that you don't do at university?
Great.
Draw. So, what do you use at art school that you don't use at university?
Pencil.
Brush.
What part of your body, which of your senses do you use at art school that you don't use at uni? Your eyes. Now think of it again. Why do the art school guys all use typewriters and the uni guys all use pencils?
So they can see the left. See the
Because you can see where the indents are, where the line breaks are, you can see what a bit of body copy looks like. When you use a typewriter, if you go to university, don't care about that because they're not visual. They're listening to the words. They don't care whether you range left, range right. They're not looking at paraspacing. But if you're from art school, the look of the type is really important to you. Where's the line breaks? Where's the paraspacing? That's why Helmut Crone, that's why I write my posts the way I do, and when I do my books, I'm really fussy with the publisher, because Helmut Crone was the guy who invented that kind of writing, and he's an art director, not a writer. Do you know this?
Sure.
You all know this, yeah? Okay, I won't tell you if you all know it. Why an art director invented that kind of writing. Huh?
I don't know.
Good. See, now you could have walked out of here ignorant, but by opening your mouth, you're actually going to learn something. No, that's really good. That's a lesson for life. It's a bit embarrassing to say, I don't know, but it's much more empowering because you will then learn more than if you sat there and didn't do it. It used to be, and it still is in newspapers, that they always set the copy range left, range right. And in New York, well everywhere really, but in New York, right before Helmut Crone, you would do your press ad with 3 elements. Picture, headline, copy. So you do your press ad with picture, headline, copy. Yeah?
Yeah.
Copy, range left, range right. So your copy would come out like this, stretch to fit, range left, range right, nice straight lines down like that, yeah?
Yeah.
So nice grey wash, that's all copywriters would do. That's all art directors would do. Nice grey wash, don't care what it says, you've got 3 elements, picture, headline, copy. And they lay them out like that. Helmut Crone said, yeah, but it doesn't look very inviting to read. It's like a block. And he started getting his scalpel and he started cutting in indents and spaces like this into it. Cutting spaces into the copy. And then he gets Julian Koenig, the copywriter, and he says, can you write the copy like this? And Koenig says, well, I can, but some of the sentences will only be 1 word long. And Crone says, I don't care, write a copy like that, it looks much more inviting. And when you look in the Volkswagen, book about the history of Volkswagen, you can see the first 2 Volkswagen ads, the first, think small, I think it is, or maybe think small, with the copy like that, and then afterwards how he cut it like that, and you can see the difference. And that's why an art director, who didn't even write it, the art director, forced them to write that way. And that became an inviting way. Now it's much more inviting to read. And Peter was saying to me, my son reads your books, but he doesn't like reading. But he'll read your books. Well, of course he does, because they are right for people who don't like reading. University people write for people who are used to reading blocks like that. But where I grew up, people didn't read. I think I was the first kid to read a book without pictures in my school when I was 15. No, really, I was the first kid to read a book without pictures. It took me a weekend and I was determined I was going to do it, just so I could say I've read a book without pictures. On Friday at my school, the teachers used to, we used to have Friday afternoon, we'd all bring in comics and read comics and swap comics, because that way at least the teachers got us to read. Otherwise we'd leave school illiterate, but at least if we read comics we'd read. But the thought of reading without pictures didn't crop up. Why would you do that? And then you've got university-trained writers who have spent their whole life reading The Guardian, now writing for the mass of the working class and selling FMCGs to people who can just about read The Sun. Because the writers are writing for themselves, they're not writing for the punters. They haven't bothered finding out how their market reads. That's why I like The Sun, not so much now, I don't anymore. But The Sun used to be really, right up until they lost their bottle over that inquiry when that woman left, Rebecca Brooks left. But up until then, it was a really funny paper, man. Great headlines, great pictures, rubbish. I mean, it's not a newspaper, it's a comic. But that's how 4 million copies sold, 3 readers for each copy, that's 12 million readership, as opposed to The Guardian, which is just under 200,000 sold, and 2 readers for every copy, that's 400,000 readership. So The Sun is outread by 2.5 times what's that, 10 times as many as the Guardian? I don't know what it is, but many, many, many times more than the Guardian. And yet all your writers and planners and account men who come from university and spend their life reading the Guardian will only write for other Guardian readers. Whether they're selling FMCGs to bus drivers or secretaries or whatever. Because they're not interested in their market, they're interested in themselves. I kind of got off the thing a little bit there, didn't I? Yeah. Sorry, did I answer that question? Yeah? Anything else? Anyone more questions?
Yeah.
Go on. We can ignore it if it's no good. But tell us what it is.
Are ideas only stupid if you're lazy, or are some ideas fundamentally stupid?
Say again, the first part. I got it up to if you're lazy.
Yeah, so did I. Are ideas only stupid if you're lazy, or are some ideas fundamentally stupid?
I don't know. It depends. There isn't a rule, is there? There isn't a formula.
And what do you say to planners and account men when the concept is great and they won't show the client because they don't like it?
Well, if you really believe if you really believe you're right and they're wrong, you've got to find a way to prove it. Either you go to the client yourself. If you're too junior and you can't do that, then you might have to swallow it until you're in a position where you can. We've all had to do that, or you might agree to do another campaign and show them both campaigns. Or you might find a way to prove it. Or they might be right.
How about that? Do you think that it's a good idea to bring creative to English?
Depends on the creative. Some creatives are great, like David Abbott, better than the accountant. And some creatives are useless, like me. I'm great with certain clients, but not with all. Some clients hate me and some clients really like me. So it depends on the client. I'm very good with senior clients and very bad with junior clients. Because you can see I'm quite overpowering, yeah? It always sounds like I'm angry. And junior clients don't like that. It frightens the life out of them. Senior clients don't care because they'll argue back and they want to know. They like this kind of stuff because it's simple and it's straight and it tells them why they're spending their money and what they're going to get for it. So senior clients really like this because it's not a lot of waffle and hot air. It's just very straight. Junior clients don't like it because it's not a lot of waffle and hot air, because it's straight. So I'm good. If you're talking to senior clients, you take me along. And if you're talking to junior clients, you keep me well out of the way.
Have you ever been fired?
Fired? Oh yeah. Yeah, of course. So is Paul Arden. So is, I think, all the good
How does
people.
it feel?
Huh?
How does it feel?
Rotten. Really feels rotten. The, you know, and then what do you know? It's like failure, isn't it? What I've done in my life is fail up. I've pretty much failed at everything, but when you add it all up, it all added up to me being way better off. Each time I've failed, the next thing's been better. And the general rule for me is it's better to go out with a bang than a whimper. Because if you go out with a bang, you've got something to take to the next job. So if I just stay loyal to the work, if I get fired for doing great work, at least I've got great work to take with me to the next job. If I manage to keep that job going by doing not great quality work, well, I've got nothing to take to the next job.
As a junior, how are you dealing with that?
Well, junior or not, your loyalty is always to the work. Your loyalty is always to your portfolio and your reel, because that's your next job. That's your career. Your loyalty is always to that. Because if and when you get fired, that's what will get you your next job. Your loyalty is always to the work, whatever you see that as. Is there anything else on the laptop? Or?
So because of digital media, we can chuck 9 different tennis balls at 9 different people at once. So why just say one thing anymore?
Yeah, because you're chucking 9 different tennis balls to 9 different people, so you are saying one thing to each of those people. But even in digital media, I don't care if digital media, Really, if you chuck 9 things at one person, that's how the mind works. You don't need digital media. That's how the mind works. It can't take 9 things, it can take 1 thing. David Abbott said, shit that arrives at the speed of light is still shit when it gets there.
Is that a question from Watford?
You keep coming back to that. Sorry, you keep coming back to the point that all this is really about is getting inside people's minds and understanding.
All this is really about is
getting inside people's minds and understanding how they work, how they feel.
Of course, yeah.
So why should we bother learning advertising techniques rather than just psychology, philosophy, all these sort of things like that? Why is Darren Brown not a great advertiser?
But why not learn them all? Why not learn both? See, I love advertising. It's a lot of fun. It's a riot. And I don't want to be a psychologist.
Yeah.
That's dull. But I need to know some of the stuff they know to make me better at doing what I do. You learn it all. It's, you know, it's not either or. It's as well as. Darren Brown, I don't know, what is he? Is he the guy who's...
Well, it does all the mind control tricks and stuff on TV.
Yeah, well, he probably enjoys what he does, doesn't he? He does those, he's a hypnotist or something, is he?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't want his job. But if you can learn something from what he does and use it here, I love this job. I wouldn't want to do anything else. But what I'm going to do is look for everything else I can find, wherever I can find it, to give me an edge on everybody else who's doing it. You know? And the mind is the big game, and then what we do is how to get into the mind. Yeah.
Are there any books you would recommend for us to read?
Yeah, there's two. Two I always recommend is obviously Positioning, The Battle for Your Mind, recent Trott, and The Art of Advertising by George Lois. But you don't have to buy that book, you can go on his website. It's all on his website, George Lois. Half of what he does is shit, half of what he does is genius. He doesn't know the difference. But the half that's genius is still 3 times as much as anybody else. And it's just, I would look to study what was being done in New York between the 60s and 70s particularly, because their ideas are bigger and much more daring. The nearest we got in England to anything big and daring is Charlie Saatchi when he was at Old Saatchi's, not M&C. When he was at Old Saatchi's. But bigger, daring, outrageous stuff. It used to be that we tried to get the work banned. We tried to do work that would get banned. Because you knew it was making a dent, and you knew people were paying attention to it because it was getting banned. You were creating a controversy, and in a controversy people are talking about it, and that's free media. If you don't want to get banned, if you want to be so bland nobody objects, well then you might as well keep your money in your trousers. But everybody now is frightened to get banned, frightened to create a controversy, frightened of any sort of discussion or objection, as if it's a bad thing. So bland is now the new good thing. Any more laptop ones? Yeah, go on.
I was just saying, when you were saying that it was harder to write in America, did you ever find that you sort of like try to put a twist on like an English saying or idiom? I can't quite think of one now, but say that like the saying, pen is mightier than the sword, is something that they only said in England. But did you ever find that you got like write a saying and you take it to an American, go director or whatever, and they should like, really don't say that here.
You're losing me.
Yeah,
I was with you till the pen is mightier than the sword. What was the next bit?
I'm just thinking like, if you were to write, so you know your short line, it's not the wind that counts, it's taking a part.
Yeah.
You do that. So say it's not the wind that counts, it's the taking like a part. Like it was a thing in England, not America. So therefore the American audience wouldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Is that a problem? Is that one of the main problems?
That's of course it is. Yeah. See, you have to learn it. I mean, one of the first ads I did there, I wrote this ad and everybody loved it, but it was like you couldn't run in England. It was they had a spokesman called Joe Namath for this company that made trousers, and he was talking this was at a trade show, and he was talking, and I had to do a trade ad for him. And I said, catch Joe Namath in some off-Broadway plays. Now, everybody laughed at the bits, but you've got to know that Joe Namath was the quarterback for the New York Jets. He was known as Broadway Joe Namath because he was a bit of a playboy. They're George Best. Broadway is where all the plays run. Off-Broadway is where the trendy plays run. A play is when you throw the ball in American football. So I got like 4 puns going on. Catch Joe Namath in some off-Broadway plays. It's fucking hard work for me to write that in someone else's language.
So when it's like, the only artists used to live there, was like...
Even then, you won't suck it up because the first 20 years of your life wasn't there.
Yeah.
So they're writing about Captain Kangaroo and Powdy Doody and Buffalo Bob, which is all like stuff you knew when you were 5. And I can't write about that. I can write about Desperate Dan and Lord Snooty and his pals and that sort of stuff. But you're restricted to stuff. You can write about The Simpsons because we all know The Simpsons. You can write about, don't know, I mean, any American shows that we see, Seinfeld or All in the Family, or is it American Dad, or what's the one that's a rip-off of The Simpsons?
Family Guy.
Family Guy. Family Guy? Yeah, you can write about those things because we both know about them. It's like a Venn diagram, isn't it? This is England and this is America. Now, where they overlap, I can write about, but I can't write about this bit where they don't overlap, and they don't know this other bit that doesn't overlap. It's just this little overlap that we can write about. They don't do football, they call it soccer. And what they call football looks like rugby to us. And what they call basketball, we call netball and girls play it. And what they call baseball, we call rounders. And they don't play cricket, and you've got all that going on, you know. And they don't have Yorkshire, and they don't have a north and south, and they don't have Cockney slang, and rhyming slang, and you know, all kinds of things. So you're restricted to, it's a bit like taking an exam, having to sit an exam all the time. All you can write is in proper English. You can do it, I did it, but I didn't enjoy it, and it was so much better coming home where everybody thought like me. I could just, you know, like taking a mental corset off. I could just write and write and write and write.
You say that there was always definitely an experience back there.
Say again?
There was always an experience back there trying to write romantic acts.
Hey, I think if you get a chance to work in New York before you're 30, do it. Just working in New York will be great for you. It will get you out of England, and it will make you grow. Amazing growth experience. If you get a chance to do it, of course do it. But whether or not you'll get any good ads out of it, I don't know. But just living in New York will be such a kick up the arse for you. Such a suddenly, you know, what you're in compared to England. Ed McCabe talks about it. Is in England, you stop on the street. You say stop someone and you say, excuse me, I wonder if you've got a light, because I'm terribly sorry. Normally I carry matches on me and I haven't got any matches today. And normally I might have a lighter, but I haven't got a lighter today and I really need a light for my cigarette. I wonder if you... The guy's down the road a fucking block away. What you got to say in New York is, hey, you got a match? Yeah? Now, it's great for you to learn that. So that when you come back to England, you stop fannying around, taking half hour to say what could have been said in one sentence. It's really great to snap your mind into that. Don't waste people's time. What we see as good manners, they see as wasting my time. What do you want? Tell me. If you want it, if I got it, you can have it. If I haven't, but don't fuck about forever. Don't waste my time. Now, that's great training, I think. But that's me. I learned so much from that thinking. Now, I also find since I've come back with a lot of people that doesn't work. When I talk to junior clients like that, they don't like it at all. I'm supposed to fanny around forever, getting to the point. And, you know, maybe if I did, maybe junior clients would like it more, but maybe I'd also be, you know, being there is not comfortable. But then if comfort's what you want, don't be there, be there. Change into some nice comfy slippers, sit in your granny's armchair, get the cat on your lap, light the fire, put the telly on and spend your life like that. That's comfortable. Not very exciting. Bit of a waste of 70 years on the planet, but it's comfortable. Yeah, this isn't comfortable. But when they're about to plant you in the ground, you'll know you used every minute of the 70 years. So you make that choice now. It's bigger than just advertising. This is, where do you want to be? I mean, because advertising is a very extreme version of what do you want to do with your life. Because this is not a place for shy people. There is only here, go and work at an ad agency in Kent, or strive to work at the best agency in London or New York. And that means treading over a lot of other people. Now, if you think that's a problem and you don't want to tread over anybody else, well, then don't do it, be here. It's a bit like you can't play on Manchester United without treading over a few people. But everybody on Manchester United knows that. We had... You heard the story about the two girls at our place? I don't want to tell you these stories if you already know them. Anna and Elaine? All right, we never... I don't like students, as you know. So we never take placements. And Nick Ray was our creative director then. I had hired Nick to be the creative director, and I was chairman. And he had got in Anna and Elaine anyway, two girls from Bucks. And we didn't have any space for them, so they had to sit out in the corridor. And the first week they were only there for 2 weeks, and I think that about 2 weeks, then we get rid of them. Getting in the way nuisances. Placement teams are just a nuisance, they're always in the way. And well, they're no good, they can't write ads, they're a waste of space, and all they do is sit and be embarrassed about, should I talk to anybody or not? They're just a nuisance. All of the, student embarrassment shit, it just all gets in the way. And anyway, after a week, Anna and Elaine started getting some ads out. And after 2 weeks, I thought these girls are really good, so I went to them and I said, look, we never do this, but why don't you girls have another 2 weeks here? And they said, okay, yes please. So they stayed for another 2 weeks, and they started to get commercials out in another 2 weeks. And I thought, bloody hell, this is really good. And I went to them and I said, look, we never ever do this. Why don't you girls have another 2 weeks here? And they said, okay, so 6 weeks. And they started to get advertising campaigns out. And I said to them, we never ever do this. Why don't you have another 2 weeks here, making it 2 months? And the girl said, no, you obviously haven't got a job for us, so we're going to go and do a placement somewhere where they have got a job. Yeah? And I went to see Gordon, my art director. I said, fucking hell, Gordon, this gives us a real problem. We can't afford to let these girls go now, and they won't stay as placements, and we haven't got room for them. So what do we do? This has got to be the same rules as football. Relegation and promotion. So we fired another team and gave the girls their office. Now, no job existed, but those girls made a job where no job existed. Anna's like a little tank. She was so good, she changed the game around from, instead of, like I had done when I was young, I changed the game from, please give me an interview, to, I only want to talk to you if you've got a job. She changed the game from, please let me have a placement, to, I'm not staying here unless you hire me. So we had to hire her. You change the game around, you get in control. And she became creative director about 5-6 years after that. Just because she was great, she was unstoppable. And there wasn't a job, and they made a job. Now people like that are like gold dust. You can't let them go. They're not just waiting for permission and approval. Please sir, can I have a job? How much digital would you like in it? Should I have some TV? Should there be posters? Anna wasn't doing any of that. Anna was just like, no, I'm going to go where they have got some jobs. So the problem's on me now. What do I do about it? And that's really where you want to be. Yeah?
Yeah.
Anna was more of a bloke than any of the blokes. Absolutely, knocked him into a cocked hat. It was great.
Are there any trends in digital that you're interested in?
Trends? Not really. If anything you've got, everyone will have it inside 2 weeks. And you've got an advantage. Everybody's desperate to have the new thing and get it before everybody else. And inside 2 weeks, everybody else has got it, and you're still going to have to outthink everybody else. So we're back to brains. The consumer's brain is the media. My brain is the machinery. The digital's not really the creative thing. The digital's a tool. You know, tools are okay. And it still comes down to that facilitates the creativity. It isn't the creativity. Yeah? Is there any more?
One thing that you regret in your career?
One thing that I regret?
Yeah.
Like what?
Anything. Fire someone.
Can't think of anything. Because what I've usually do, if it's something I regret, I either change it, or if I can't change it, I forget about it. But there isn't really any point in, you know, you do absolutely everything to change it, and if you can't change it, well, that's that. I'm getting a sense that you guys have had enough and you want to go, is that right? It's okay. You tell me, I don't want to keep you prisoners. You've all gone very quiet.
What's your biggest disappointment in digital at the moment?
Digital?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to do with digital. It's just media. It's all just stuff. It's not like I separate off TV from press, from posters, from digital. You know, it's like a palette, and you know, that's all on your palette, and there's the brush, and we see what we're doing and which bit we need.
Okay, so what's the most biggest disappointment in general in current advertising?
The fact that everybody's embarrassed to death to be in advertising, and they won't put the name of their product on it. If you want to get in the language, you've got to use language, and yet people are making pieces of art, so they don't use language. I don't want the strap line read out, and I don't even want the strap. I want the logo as small as possible, and hopefully no one will realise this is an ad. Well, here's a secret. Those little films that run in between the programmes, I think people have worked out that they're ads. You know? So my big disappointment is how everybody's desperately trying to pretend they're not in advertising, they're in a higher calling. And so none of it's any fun. It's like, you know, a lot of media's like that nowadays. Everybody's too embarrassed to have fun anymore. The best thing I've seen recently, the thing that I've liked a lot, do you see that Trevor Phillips programme the other night? Anybody here see it, Trevor Phillips? Anybody know who Trevor Phillips is? No? Well, it won't mean anything to you. That's the best thing I've seen for ages, is that Trevor Phillips programme.
What's it about?
Well, Trevor Phillips was a black news reporter, very posh bloke. And then he was the head of the racial...
Trevor McDonald?
No, Trevor Phillips. Trevor McDonald is the old black news reporter. Trevor Phillips is the younger, posh, hip black news reporter. Very cool guy, very left-wing. Head of the Racial Equality Commission. And he did this great programme. You really should watch it. It's got about 20 days left on iPlayer. He did a programme about what's wrong nowadays is everybody's too embarrassed to talk about race. And he thinks a lot of that is because of what he did during his time as head of the Racial Equality Commission. And he wants to undo a lot of that. And of course, The Guardian hates him for it. He wants to get to a period where you judge people just exactly you judge people by people. Not by sex, not by age, not by race. You don't be embarrassed about sex, age, race, religion, whatever. You watch it. The guy, he's a very posh bloke, incredibly articulate, and there's a lot of really bad language in the programme, and made for IT, for BBC. Channel 4, maybe it's not BBC. It's called, but you put up there, Trevor Phillips and race, and you'll find it, that programme. There's about less than 3 weeks left to see it. And that's really well written, and really confrontational. And I love the idea that you take something that you ought not to be, that everybody's scared stiff to be talking about, and you talk about it in a way that is so grown up that now you think, wow, this really is, I feel stupid for being embarrassed about it. Yeah? So really, I think that's the best thing in any media. That was last week that I've seen, and that was all over Twitter and everywhere, Facebook and everywhere last week. And outraging the Guardian and everything like that. And, very, very controversial, and that's what I love about it.
Dave, you say, I understand what you mean about these art films that are taking space or commercial breaks.
You can have to talk louder.
Sorry, I understand what you mean about art films.
Art films, yeah?
The art films taking place of commercial.
Yeah.
But now that we're choosing who we want, Netflix and Star Plus, we don't have to watch these adverts. So if I'm choosing what I'm watching, surely those older style ads don't apply to me. I want to watch stuff that appeals to me. So those art films, that Red Bull style Coca stuff, that
Red Bull.
Like content that interests me. If I'm choosing.
Yeah, but you're talking about shit ads. I'm not talking about shit ads. See, just because it's branded doesn't have to be shit. You look at what John Webster used to do. Look at John Smith's ads. You look at Castlemaine. Australians wouldn't give a 4X for any other lager.
But it's
fucking great line. Branded the fuck out of it.
It's a great ad that exists in an ad break that I was forced to watch in between the programme I was watching. Whereas now I don't need to watch it.
So you think nowadays there's an excuse for not knowing who's running the ad?
No, but I think the content can change. It's not.
You're talking about branded content, native content, all the usual bollocks, which actually, sorry, I'm not even going to go, but I get a lot of this.
Yeah.
Which actually is just people who are embarrassed about being in advertising, hoping that if they can disguise what they're doing, nobody will notice it's an ad. You think that's something you want to be involved in? If I pretend I'm not advertising, maybe nobody will notice it's an ad. Is that a sort of noble profession you want to be involved in?
I don't want to disguise the brand. I want to sell the product, but I think the means in which you do it.
So don't have a strap line on the end of it, and put just in the last 2 seconds the logo, small as possible, in the right-hand corner, and hope nobody sees it.
No, not at all.
Well, what are we talking about?
You can have all the branding you want on it, but if I'm choosing what I want to watch, I don't want to watch an advert. I don't want to watch.
Yeah, but how do you know? How do you know if it's a good advert? You might want to watch it.
It needs to be interesting. It needs to be what.
Of course, but that's always been true. But then there never was a time where people chose to watch shit adverts. It was always, it got into the language. You gave people something they could take away with them. You gave people something really funny that they laughed their socks off, jokes that they could repeat, songs that they could sing, not crappy songs, because they won't sing crappy songs, songs that they could sing, strap lines that were really funny to use in the language, does exactly what he says on the tin, Australians won't give a 4X for any other lager. You gave people really good stuff they could take away and use in their life, so that the ads wouldn't be a fucking intrusion on the box, wouldn't be come in and just nag you. The ads would actually be better than the programmes, a little bit of fun, a little bit of something to take away with you. You'd really enjoy it. Why wouldn't you want that? I'm a PC ads, the American ones that they did. For 5 years they did those things. I've watched every one of them again and again. They are really, really good, really well written, really funny. Why wouldn't you watch that? I mean, now, if it's some old knowledge, of course you're not going to watch it, but this isn't a recent discovery. Howard Gossage says people watch what interests them. People don't watch advertising. People watch what interests them, and sometimes it's an ad. Well, if we stopped doing ads and started doing interesting stuff? Now, part of that is what we've got to do is not pretend we're something we're not. We're an ad. And why we're running this is because we'd like you to remember our product and what's good about it. Now, let's tell you that in a really funny way. So funny that you want to remember this joke and tell your mates. Like Volkswagen, like Bill Bernbach did for 50 years with Volkswagen. People were cutting those out and pinning them on their walls. Like Avis. You know, nowadays, when was the last time you saw someone tear out an ad and pin it on their wall? You know? People don't think of that anymore. Nowadays, you're embarrassed to be in it, so let's pretend we're not in it.
you're a student in the audience right now, what question would you ask?
If I was,
A student in the audience right now, what question would you ask?
I don't know, I'm not doing your job, I'm doing my job. Sorry, did that answer your question or not?
Yeah.
If it didn't, please, let's carry the discussion on. Go on.
What will it take to get British advertising back on track, do you think?
I think you start having fun. You stop being embarrassed and start having fun. Being embarrassed is what killed the Sun. Sun was a really funny paper. I once asked Peter Cook, you know the comedian Peter Cook? He used to read every newspaper every day. And I used to say, I said, if you could only have one newspaper, Pete, which one would you have? And he said, the Sun and the Guardian. And I said, no, only one. And he said, that is one. That's one proper paper, the Sun and the Guardian. The Guardian for the news and the writing, and the Sun for the comic supplement, for the fun. And then you've got everything you need, you don't need the rest. And we used to tear the Sun headlines out and put them on the wall of the creative department. They were so good. They were excellent writing. They got into the language. I'd see people in cafes pinning them on the wall. You know, to get into the language must be the holy grail. It must be the goal of what we're about, isn't it? So that's what you do. Now, you don't, the Sun and the Guardian. You put the two together. You don't have to choose. It's the best of both worlds. That was Pete's view. Anyone else? Any more on the laptop? Or? You guys, if you're bored, you can just go. You don't have to wait till the end. Get up quietly and go.
If you're going to do a brief next week, and you have to choose a former or current West Ham player to be your art director, who would you choose?
West Ham?
Yeah, based on character, sort of like.
Well, it's different. I mean, West Ham, obviously, your god's going to be Bobby Moore. Obviously. But when I was young, my hero, I always saw myself more as Billy Bonds. That doesn't mean anything unless you know West Ham, Billy Bonds. Yeah. Okay, so that's more how I saw myself. We'll often talk about agencies in terms of football players, who's who and who reminds who of who. Like, I was talking about GGT, and when I had that set up, it would be, so Nick Ray and Paul Grubb would be like Scholes and Neville. Dave Waters would be like Roy Keane, and Steve Henry would be like Beckham. You know, Roy Keane is the guy that does everybody else's job, and if you don't do it, I'm going to come and do it. And that was Dave Waters. Totally reliable, totally rock solid guys who work their socks off. Scholes and Neville. That was Nick Ray and Paul Grubb. Guys that maybe didn't work too hard, but could be absolutely brilliant, and on his day just do things that you wouldn't believe. That was Beckham. That was Steve Henry. You know, you just see him like that. And I would see, the department or the actually. You talk about it in terms of football. The planners I always saw as wingers. Their job is to bring the ball the length of the field and then cross it. Don't try and walk it into the goal. Cross it. As creative director, I'm supposed to be the centre forward. I play with my back to the goal. My job is to bring the ball down, the brief, bring it down and lay it off to one of the nippy little strikers to come in and score. One of the little northerners. We had lots of little northerners in the crew.
Basically, keeping the football relation, when it comes to like moving agency or moving like football team, I've got this like epic vision of it being like a team that comes to you, an agency will come to you and be like football club does, and like, how's it like? I just genuinely don't really know how it works in terms of like, this is quite premature for you to ask. What if you've got a job and then you want to move somewhere that's like bigger? How can you do that?
Any way you want. There's loads of different ways to do it. Well, I mean, there's loads of different ways to do it. First off, you start going around, well, I don't know about nowadays, in my day, we used to go to meet, because lots of creatives change agencies, you can socialise a lot. So you go to their pubs. So we go and play darts in their pubs. So Colin Dickinson Pierce was one side, and we in Soho, we were in BNP, we were in Paddington, and between us was French Gold Aber. So we'd all meet up in French Gold's pub for a darts match. Then I would meet those boys and they'd tell me where there were jobs available and where it was a good place to work, and I'd hear what they were working on. That's one way. Headhunters, obviously, but you use headhunters more for information than actual placement. They tell you where there are jobs or where there are people. If you make phone calls, nowadays you use email, or you supposedly social media and everything. Surely you can find ways to do it that way. Be creative. Pick up your phone. Send people stuff. You know, just be creative about it. There isn't a rule. This is where girls are better than blokes. Girls understand water logic about this more than blokes. They'll find a way to do it.
If an agency doesn't like what you do, say like me and my partner tried doing something quite ridiculous, and
You're gonna have to talk up a little.
Sorry, we tried doing something like kind of like really strange before, but like trying to be the X, and it kind of like flops completely. So do you
tried doing something strange and it flopped.
Yeah. So don't get attention. So like, it's not being like all polite and like ask, could we please like come and see? Like, I'm trying to do something like kind of out there, and it didn't work out. So do you reckon we should write this really moodily and like not very like didn't have a sense of humour? So do you reckon you should look at that agency as not being a place that you want to work?
Is it likely that I'm going to say you should judge every single agency by that agency?
Yes.
Is it? Is it likely I'm going to say you should judge every single project by that project? Is it likely I'm going to say you should judge every single anything by that anything? You're looking for a formula. That didn't work. What did you learn from it? Don't do that again. Whatever it was that you learned that didn't work, don't do that again. Maybe it was a shit project. Maybe it wasn't very good. Don't do a not very good one again. What there is, you haven't got a finite media. You are your most important project ever. You're creative. Now you've got to sell this most important project ever. If it doesn't work, are you going to give up and never do it again? Right. Normally, a client would have 5 million quid and he says to you, here's what I do, here's my 5 million quid. And once you've spent it, that's it, gone. Is that how it works with you? Once your media is spent, you can't do any more advertising. Right. You can do 100 today, 100 tomorrow, 100 the next day, for the next 5 years if you like. You can even do 200 a day if you can do it. You can have as many ideas as you can have. You can do as much as you can do. And if they don't like it, so fucking what? What are they going to do? Phone up D&AD and get you banned from every ad agency in London? If this one bloke doesn't like it, fuck him. He's one of 200 blokes. You're asking for permission to be that. If you ask for permission, you are automatically that.
I was sort of asking like if you need.
No, listen, get what I said. Yeah? If you're asking for permission, you're there. If you don't want anyone to dislike you, you're there. If you're happy with people disliking you, you're there. If you can enjoy it, you're there. But if you don't want anyone to dislike you, you're there. Yeah? Now say what you're going to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of quite what I'm saying. It's not like I was like upset I didn't like it. I was wondering whether you should like want to aspire to keep trying to impress them, even if they like hate you at first.
I can't give you a formula.
I'm saying, so have you done that before? There's been someone that like an agency you wanted to work at, that didn't like you.
What have I done? Kids come to me and they say, I want to get an interview at so-and-so place. Could you help me? And I said, don't you? Fuck it. He didn't ask me. If you think that's what will get you an interview, send him an email and say, I saw Dave Trott and Dave Trott said I should talk to you. You don't even have to ask me. Why would you ask me even? What am I going to do? If you ask me and I say no, you can't. What are you going to not do it? Why would you even ask me? What I know is if I get an email from some bloke I've never heard of and he says, John Hegarty told me to talk to you, I'm going to say, well, I don't normally talk to students, but I don't want to upset Hegarty, so I better see this kid. I don't phone up Hegarty and say, is that right, John? You told this guy to talk to me? I'll never know. And even if I did, I phone up Peggotty and say, this kid told me you told me. And Peggotty says, no, I never did. I said, oh, cheeky little fucker. I better see him. You know? I can't see that you can lose. All you can lose is, I better not do it in case I upset someone. Either you're in the business of upsetting people, or you're not. There was this guy who wanted to be I read in this book, this guy wanted an agent in Hollywood. He was an actor and he wanted an agent. And this agent said, okay, I'll take you on. He said, but this is only going to work one way. If I've got a lot of other clients and I've got a lot of other people to get jobs for, apart from you. This isn't going to work unless you get in my face, unless you annoy me, annoy the fuck out of me, so that when I pick the phone up, I say, get the fuck off the phone and never call me again. That's the only way this is going to work. If you sit there very quietly waiting for me to call you, this is a waste of time and I don't want to be your agent. Yeah? If you are quiet and shy, this is advertising, this is not a place for shy people. If you are quiet and shy, you need to find an agency that's quiet and shy. I can't help you out with that. Maybe this isn't for you. You know, this probably, you'd be lucky if there's 10% of the people in this room that this is for. Most people, if you're quiet and shy and gentle and polite and you want life like that, well then be here. There's nothing wrong with this. Why would you force yourself to be there? This is only for people like me. I'm not as good as anybody, as a load of other people. I'm not very good. I know that. I got turned down from 7 art colleges. I'm not very good. Now, how can I beat the people I'm not so good as? That's for people like that. If you're talented, or you want to be better, or you want to be good, or you want to be polite, or you want to be nice, or this is here. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're like me, you're not a genius, you're not very good, but you want to beat the people that are, how do you do that? I promise you, that's what worked for me. Any more, or are we done? Everybody done?
Yeah.
I'll stay here as long as you like, but I don't want to keep you prisoner. Yeah, it's 6:30. Yeah?
Those to go away and think about certain of that. I've got lots of D&AD work to do, and I'll see what it channels tomorrow morning.